Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. My name is Dr. Lesley Phillips, and I am your host on Unlocking Your Truth for the next hour. And here, as usual, in the studio with me is Corey. Hello, Corey.
Hello, Dr. Lesley.
Hello.
How are you on this wonderful Halloweeny Eve?
I'm fantastic, thank you. And how are you?
I'm very scared.
Are you?
Ghosties and goblins all over the place.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, anyway, listeners, it is Halloween. I don't know if we're going to be talking about Halloween tonight, though. But we do have a fabulous guest lined up to talk to you tonight. If you're tuning in for the first time, I should explain a little bit about this show. We are a talk show and we focus on metaphysics and spirituality. And every week we have a different topic. And our goal is just really to expose you to a variety of different information in that realm. And then we open the phone lines in the second part of the show for you listeners to phone us up and ask your questions. And so you're welcome to call into the show and join in the show topic. Or if you would like an intuitive insight about any area or aspect of your life, you're welcome to call at that time as well. So I will be reading out the phone number a few times this evening, but here's the first time, 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And if you're a bit shy and you don't want to be live on air, you can email info@drlesleyphillips.com. So, without further ado, let me talk a little bit about tonight's show and what we have in store for you. Now, of course, because the theme of the show is metaphysics and spirituality, we talk about intuition a lot on this show. And as someone with a scientific and business background, and now a focus on spirituality and intuition and healing, I have a real passion to bring intuition into the mainstream. And I'd really love to make it an everyday aspect for people. And that's why I'm delighted to have today's guest on the show, because she also has a passion for bringing intuition to the forefront. So today's theme is intuitive leadership and magnetic business attraction. And really, it's all about how to use your intuition and your ability to work with energy to be a leader. And as you're probably aware, a leader takes many shapes and forms. It's not just necessarily the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. So our guest tonight is Terry, and she'll have to correct me if I pronounce her name incorrectly, Terry Wildman. And she is an experienced entrepreneur, a speaker, a professional development trainer, and best-selling author. And she also became certified in many holistic modalities after experiencing multiple burnouts and health crises. So she's certified in heart math, emotional freedom, executive coaching, and is a DISC professional behavior analyst. And her careers have included being the owner of the Winds of Change Holistic Education and Leadership Center, the owner of Image Plus, and the CEO of a manufacturing company. And she works with all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life, but especially people who are in financial institutions, healthcare institutions, Chamber of Commerce, and universities, and many, many more. And she also has, in her career, had a lot of experience presenting to military personnel. And she's written a book called The Enchanted Boardroom. And and she uses her experience in programs and speeches to develop leaders and entrepreneurs and to turn them into intuitive puzzle-solving ninjas. So, Terry, welcome to the show.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to hear your voice. And where are you based, Terry?
I am based in Rhode Island.
So it's a bit later for you over there then.
It's 10 p.m. my time.
I hope you're not too tired.
Not at all. Not at all. It's always exciting to be sharing about intuition with everyone.
Yeah, and so I'm really interested in you and your background. So what made you switch from being a businesswoman to being an intuitive coach?
Well, actually, I still consider myself a businesswoman who integrates intuition in everything that I do. I'm a firm believer that leaders who integrate the practical, the tactical, and the logical with the emotional, the energetic, and the intuitive work from a very grounded and coherent platform for themselves and when leading their people. So intuition has been a part of my life since I was a kid. And you know how it is. You know, and sometimes when we say things to our parents, if they don't really understand intuition, we keep hearing no long enough, sort of dissolves. It goes away for a while.
Yeah.
And over the years, I just kept, the nudges were there, and finally I started to really listen.
Yeah. Your stories are very similar to mine.
Yep.
Yeah. I also been intuitive since a child, but I think you and I and many, many other people orient to the physical world and also channeled down this very narrow pathway which relates solely or more to the intellectual side of things. So let me ask you about your book, The Enchanted Boardroom. In it, you write about intuitive leadership. So maybe you could share with us your definition of intuitive leadership, what that means to you.
To me, intuitive leadership is about being able to lead with great communication, with resilience, an understanding of what builds a great business culture, which is its people, and listening to those nudges, listening to the images that come, listening and trusting the words, sometimes those disembodied words that you hear, and listening to how you feel in that gut. And leaders who do that, and leaders from all around the world and in history have touched on the power of intuition because it actually works with the logical and the practical and gives it life, a different format, a different way of thinking that brings it to life. I find that leaders who just live in the black and white world of the practical, tactical, and logical lose out on opportunities, lose out on the ability to lead their people to new, exciting, innovative places to grow businesses when they don't listen to sometimes things that don't make sense, that it's nudging them so strongly and so powerfully that if they trusted themselves enough, they would see that the magic would happen on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with you. It really opens up a whole new level of creativity and a different way of making decisions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So can anybody be an intuitive leader, or does it have to be someone who's leading a multinational corporation?
Oh, anyone can be an intuitive leader. whether you're on the sports field, whether you're a teacher in the classroom, whether you're a parent, whether you are a cashier at a retail store. Everyone can be an intuitive leader. Everyone. Now, my specific target market is the C-suite and the folks that are in senior management, because they're the ones who have the power to create change from the top down. And when you have leaders in a boardroom who learn to listen to their enchanted boardroom, and their enchanted boardroom are two different things. They're in inner guidance system, and the leaders, what I call the leader within, that really powerful intuitive place where you can invite whoever it is you want to have a conversation with inside of you. And there's also the physical boardroom. So imagine a physical boardroom where you have every single person around that boardroom tap into their inner guidance system. And like Napoleon Hill said, when minds come together, a third mind is created.
Yeah, well, that
magic happens.
Yeah, and that would be so wonderful. And so I'm interested to hear from you how receptive you think people at that C executive level and boardroom level are to opening up to their intuition, because it was only a few years ago when even meditation was something that was seen as way out there. And now it's becoming more mainstream, because lots of business leaders are saying they meditate, and the business schools have been studying it and advocating it. And we're just starting to see, that changing for intuition. But I imagine that there probably still are some pushback to it. So what's your experience? What percentage do you think are open?
Well, I can't really state a percentage, but what I will say is that when I owned my leadership center, I had to be very cautious of the words that I used and how I worked with the tools that I currently work with. I've been using them since when I owned my center from 2001 to 2009, and I taught all the professional development stuff, your classic leadership, your team building, your communications, your stress management stuff, just like a lot of other folks do. But what I did was I intertwined the intuitive side. I hid it. You know how a child, you want to get them to eat carrots, and they mush it up and then you stick it in their food? That's what I do. That's what I found I had to do in between 2001 and 2009. I had to mush it all up and integrate it into the very left brain training.
Which is what I was going to say to you, is it changing? Because I know people today who still do that. Still careful about the language and what they say that we're doing.
Well, I'm finding that people used to say I was ahead of my time. And what I'm finding is it's finally catching up to me. In that now's the time to really begin getting this message out, because people are more open. People are more, they're appreciative of intuition. I see a spirituality that is being integrated in the workplace, not in the form of religion, but in the form of kindness, in the form of awareness, in the form of mindfulness. And when we open the door to that kind of energy, we allow our intuition to grow, and we're a little bit more open to it. So from the platform of kindness, mindfulness, and awareness, it's easier to build a culture of respect and trust and openness to these other skill sets. And it really is a skill and when you present it that way, that these skill sets can actually increase your bottom line, can actually create profit in business as you elevate social consciousness. Because there are so many socially conscious businesses that are evolving now that I think people are just, I believe that people are more open to everything that is beginning to happen. And the people who I interact with, they may come in with a little bit of resistance. Within a little bit, they realize that this is not woo-woo. I call it practical woo. Okay? Practical woo in terms of just trusting yourself and what comes. Letting go. Stop being scared of our gifts. Because we can all tap into these gifts. Every single one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And we will continue exploring that because I want to ask you more about your book and other things. But we're going to go to a really quick break. And so we'll be back to ask you more after these few short messages. And listeners, you've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley, and our guest this evening is Terry Wilderman. Did I pronounce your name correctly, Terry?
You just did.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so so listeners, you've been listening to us talking about intuitive leadership, and we're going to be back after these few short messages. And if in the meantime you want to send in a question or a comment, you can send to info@drlesleyphillips.com or 604-504-7441, extension 4142, and you are listening to us on CIVM. Hello listeners, and welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. My name is Dr. Lesley Phillips and I'm your host. And tonight on Unlocking Your Truth, we are talking about intuitive leadership with our guest, who is Terry Wilderman. And she's written a book called The Enchanted Boardroom, and I assume its goal is to help leaders everywhere understand about their intuition. So, Terry, what different ways of receiving intuition are covered in your book?
Well, one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is that our intuitive gifts are directly correlated to the way we learn. For example, those of us who are very visual often get images. And those images we call psychic ability. Those of us who are audio focused and do best by listening, we are tuned in to hearing words and hearing sounds and hearing things that intuitively guide us. We're a clairaudience. And then those of us who are very kinesthetic, need to touch things and feel things. We gain a lot of our intuition from that. And we call that clairsentience, and then we've got the claircognizance, where we just know things. So our learning abilities and how we choose to learn actually is completely integrated with how we sense our intuition.
And that's a lovely way to bridge that gap for people. Listeners, if you are interested in all of those intuitive abilities that Terry just talked about, we've actually done a show on each of those.
There you go.
So if you want more information about any of them, because we won't have time this evening to go into depth about them, there are many ways of being intuitive, and so which are the ones that you resonate with the most, Terry?
Well, in the beginning, it was very interesting. I would hear things but not understand what it was. I mean, when I was very young, I remember having a conversation with the neighbor next door who had an argument with my sister. And I sat there talking with her, and I remember walking away from the conversation thinking, where did those words come from? They were words that I don't normally use. They were really big words. It's like, what the heck? What is this? But then I sort of, didn't really let it, I let it go. And then I ended up studying Reiki in the mid-90s because I had had a lot of illness, and it landed in my lap. Let me put it that way. And after the first attunement, I found a lot of my intuitive gifts began to blossom. I was very surprised. I started seeing things. Things got sharper and clearer. And I started hearing words. I honestly thought I was going nuts, though. I kept hearing messages. Do this, don't do this, do that, don't do that. And I give various examples in my book about how I believe in angels and work with angels and different angelic things happen. And what I started to realize was that it was angels perhaps talking to me. They saved my life in a car accident. I heard the words, buckle your seatbelt. I ignored it. I heard it again. I ignored it. I heard it a third time very angrily. And I buckled my seatbelt, and sure enough, I got hit by a drunk driver shortly afterwards. And if I had not buckled my seatbelt, I would have gone through the windshield. So that was opening opening to the intuitive gifts. But something just happened with Reiki that things just really got much bigger in the mid-90s, and I started hearing things. My very first book on telephone skills, for crying out loud, telephone skills, it was called 1-800-COURTESY, was channeled. I would wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I would put my hands on the keyboards. I would just get very quiet, and all of a sudden I would hear the words in my left ear, and I would translate them right to the keyboard. And little by little, all of my gifts have grown. So I use them all. The kinesthetic, the audio, the visual, the feeling, the sensing, the images, the hearing. I'm really quite even with all of them now. And depending on what it is, the audio may pop in, or the image may pop in, or that feeling in the gut will pop in. They're all just about equal.
That's great. That's fantastic. And listeners, if you're sitting there wondering about yourself, I promise you that every single one of you can learn to open your gifts. And for you, Terry, it was receiving some healing that perhaps moved some blocks out of the way. And
that's exactly right.
Yes, and so what in your experience are some of the biggest blocks to people accessing their intuition?
The biggest block is not trusting what you hear, see, or feel. We second guess ourselves. We're resistant to the message. It's not practical. It's not logical. We allow other people to poo-poo the message. We'll say, well, I think we should do this because our intuition guided us there, but somebody else will say that, no. So I honestly believe that trust in ourselves and belief in ourselves and what comes to us is critical to really being able to work with it, because when we listen to our bodies, those images, the words, and those feelings that are constantly nudging us, and trust it, we're basically saying, yes, bring it on. We open. And the more we open, and you know this, Dr. Phillips, the more we open, the more we receive.
Yeah. And I believe you're right. Doubting the intuition is a big issue, and I think that doubt is often caused by the intellect and the logical mind, and for people it is how to discern the difference even. I get a lot of people asking me, well, how do I know that it's how do I know if it's my emotions or if it's my intellect or if it's my ego and so showing people or getting them to slow down so that they can start to pick up on those subtle signals and showing them what the difference is between the intellect and the logic.
Absolutely. That slowing down piece, in my book, I teach a technique called quick shift, which does exactly what you're talking about. And I have folks breathe into their chest, shift their focus into their chest, and to get tuned into their body, and breathe deeply, and then just imagine themselves in a place that they love or doing something that they love, such as either hiking or swimming or holding a baby or a puppy. And what that does is it raises the DHEA levels in the body, which is the good hormone, and it decreases the cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. And in doing that, it slows us down. It's equivalent to when on the airplane the flight attendant says, put the oxygen on yourself first. The quick shift is equal to that oxygen mask. You're giving yourself oxygen to slow down. And when you slow down and tap into your heart, you're engaging the brain and the head with the brain and the heart. And heart math, you had mentioned that I was a heart math coach, but my bio has shown that the heart is actually a brain. And you can measure the electromagnetic field of the heart 6 to 10 feet away from the body in a 360-degree circumference. And when we're connected with our heart brain, when we connect the brain and the head with the brain and the heart, we step into a very coherent place, a neutral place, where we can truly listen.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And so, with the people that you work with, what do most of them want to use their intuition for?
Great question. The folks that I work with, who are business people, entrepreneurs, they want to make better decisions. They want to know that the action that they're taking, whether it's on a business deal, interacting with a coworker, or interacting with a client or a vendor, they want to know that the decisions that they're making are the right decisions. So intuition really, there's certain exercises that I have in the Enchanted Boardroom that help people work with their practical mind and then tap into the quick shift that I was talking about to help them tap into that intuitive place. And so they have both the practical and the intuitive and emotional place in front of them using these exercises, which gives them clarity around their decision making and the choices that they want to make to either live a better life or have a better result. So that's how I work with them, in teaching them how to ask themselves questions that allow them to get the right decision, make the right decision for themselves and for others.
So let me ask you a question, and this question's based on personal experience, because I used to be a business development director in the biotech industry, believe it or not.
So, yes, I believe it.
And, you know, at the time I was a sort of closet psychic intuitive person. So by day business executive, by night, you know, meditation teacher and so on. And so I used to use my intuition in my work, but not out in the open. And certainly I wouldn't have felt comfortable standing in front of the board and justifying a recommendation based on my intuition told me. Because at least at that time, I don't believe I would have been taken seriously. So do you find that some of your clients still have to, so they tap into their intuition, but they still have to find a logical story to sell to some of their colleagues?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without question. And, there are so many folks that I know who are like yourself, with closet intuitives.
Not anymore.
Yeah, we're not anymore. No. But when you're in the workplace, when you're corporate, you're a closet intuitive because you don't want to be ridiculed. You want to be taken seriously. And the thing is, when you're doing your presentation, if you ask your intuition for a practical way to share the information, that information is going to come. So intuition, you're telling me to do this. You're telling me to work with this. This isn't making any sense to me. Help me. And what I have found is when I teach my folks to go into meditation, and when these intuitive hits come, and to ask those questions and just get quiet. And meditating doesn't mean sitting on a couch and saying Om.
No.
You can meditate in the moment by doing this quick shift. And it's very fast. And you just get quiet into a neutral place to allow the answers to come. It's very simple. And you don't have to stand in front and say, my intuition did this. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of power in trusting these intuitive hits that seem to be counterintuitive. Have you ever had an intuitive hit that just didn't make sense, but you followed it anyway, and it was a very powerful, positive result?
Well, so for me, I'm very experienced at this now, and so it's not an intuitive hit like you were saying. My clairvoyance, my clairaudience, my claircognizance, my clairsentience. I see very clearly, so I don't even really need to question it. I know the difference between my clairvoyance and my intellect. And so I would say for me, no, I know the difference. I mean, there probably would have been a time a long time ago.
Yeah, and what I found was, and this is where I take these folks where something can be counterintuitive. I'm going to use something very recent that happened in listening to those hits that seem counterintuitive or really go against being practical. And it had to do with Hurricane Irma. Now, this was not business. It was personal. But my cousin, who was the CEO of a company, he and I flew down to Florida to save our parents, so to speak. And my mom and dad are 94 and 92. His mom is in her mid-80s. And so he went to close up her house. I went to close up my parents' house. And they lived 15 minutes apart. My intuition kept telling me to take my parents to my cousin's house. Big house, in control, had never had any flooding or anything like that. And it was very great, this intuition. And I followed it. I packed up the car, took food for 5 days over to the house, packed up my mom's wheelchair and the walker, and took everything over to my cousin's house. In the meantime, his area is being told to evacuate. Now, he sits high in the air in that specific area, and I felt very comfortable with boots on the ground, seeing where his house stood, where the water was, and I trusted my intuition. I didn't understand it. I just knew I had to trust and believe in it. And about 2:30 in the morning, I woke up and heard the message clearly, evacuate. I looked at the phone, and my cousin had been texting me, and I called him, and I said, we're evacuating. He said, absolutely, we're evacuating. because I had taken all of that food and the wheelchair and the walker to his house, he was able to pack up his car with all of those items, his luggage and his mom's luggage. I packed up my parents along with one of those, what do you call it, those elevated toilet seats and emergency equipment and their luggage and my luggage in my father's car. If I had not listened to my intuition, I wouldn't have been able to do that because of all the stuff that was in the car, the food, the wheelchair, and the walker. It would have taken us an extra 2 hours of running back and forth and switching cars before we got on the road. Everything said bumper to bumper traffic. I said, no, we are leaving at this specific time. Everything evolved at just the right moment. We did 80 all the way up to Orlando. And it would not have been possible if I had not listened to my intuition, even though it didn't make sense to take all that stuff to my cousin's house and to go to my cousin's house.
Well, thank you for that amazing story. I'm going to have to go to another break. So listeners, stay tuned. You've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley, and we've been talking to Terry Wilderman about intuition and intuitive leadership. And we'll be back with some more after these few short messages. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. You're listening to us on CIVL on 101.7 FM. And today on Unlocking Your Truth, we've been talking about intuitive leadership with our guest, Terry Wilderman. And hello, Terry, again.
Hello.
Hi. So, I have lots more questions for you, but I think we should give our listeners a little bit of a chance to benefit from your wisdom. So I'm going to ask Corey if he has a big list of listeners' questions. So maybe you can find one or two that would be appropriate to ask Terry.
I do have some questions for Terry that would take in her intuitive nature as well as her leadership. You ready for that, Terry?
Go for it.
Okay. So let's go. Question number 1 is from Mimi. Mimi says, will my choice in career lead me towards a happier life?
Will your choice in career lead you to a happier life? Okay. It also depends on how you feel about that career. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. I just got a huge echo back, so I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. The choice in your career will make you happy only if you really love what it is that you're doing. If your choice of career is based on what your mother thinks or your father thinks or what somebody else thinks or what you think you should be doing, that's where you compromise yourself, and what you love and are passionate about. As a executive coach, I often find that there are times when people are in careers that they're in because somebody else expected them to be there. This is a time when you're choosing a career that you do what you truly want to do, not what anybody else wants you to do. That's what's going to make you happy. And one of the things I've also seen is that folks who go after the money instead of what they'd love to do end up not being fulfilled in their career. Whereas folks who go and do what they love to do often create a highly fulfilling career that is also profitable. I hope that answers your question.
It's a really, really great answer. And in fact, they've done studies on MBA students, and they've looked at the ones who chase the money versus the ones who just go for what they're passionate about. And the ones that are more successful are always the ones that go for what they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
So great answer, and I agree with you, everything that you said. So, Corey, is there another question?
Yeah, that was a great answer. I love that. Yeah, I have another one from Mia. I'm not sure which it is. And Mia says, I have been experiencing a very rapid and profound spiritual awakening over the past months. However, I feel that I've come to a standstill due to this feeling of doubt deep inside. Because of this doubt of the spiritual realm, I'm having trouble figuring out where this stems from or how even to move past it or heal it. I would love if you could give me some insight as to where this doubt stems from and how I can begin to move past it and heal it so that I can continue my spiritual journey. And I take it this would entail her whole life and her career and everything along those lines as well. So.
Okay, well, and Dr. Phillips, please let me know your thoughts on this one also, because I think with your experience and mine, we could both answer this question powerfully. And oftentimes I find when we go on a very quick spiritual journey like that, we end up stopping because it's time to integrate. You've learned an awful lot in a short amount of time. And it may be time, instead of being in doubt, accepting it and honoring it and integrating what you've already learned and processing it. So it could be a catch-up time for you. That's catch-up, C-A-T-C-H, not ketchup as in
Yes.
what you put on your hamburger. A catch-up time for you where the rest of you is meeting where you are spiritually. What I found for myself is when I've had, when times such as those happen, I would look at them as blocks, and what I realized, it wasn't a block at all. It was an opportunity to take what I learned and integrate it and use it well. And when I understood that, it was interesting how the right things landed in my lap at the right time to take me further on my journey.
Thank you. That's really great advice, and I have got something in addition, but I'll just validate that and say that you, the spiritual consciousness, makes changes instantly. You download information instantly, but your body, which exists in physical reality, takes time to catch up to the changes that you make as spirit. And so I absolutely agree with that. The other thing that I was seeing was in your case that there is and well, I'll use the word block for want of finding a better word, but I'm seeing some energy in your fifth chakra, which is the energy center that relates to communication. And I'm seeing that it's blocking your own inner voice. So that energy center, it relates to clairaudience, but it also relates to the inner voice and telepathy and other things. And, and I'm seeing that, what's interfering with your inner voice, which is the voice of your higher consciousness talking to you, the body personality, it looks like a male authority figure. So you might want to look at influential males that have been in your life, and usually it's the dad, and move that energy off. So I'm seeing that there's been some programming in your childhood from a kind of a naysaying voice that's caused you to doubt your own inner voice. And so you're learning to deprogram yourself and tune in once again to that inner voice. It's what Terry and I were talking about at the beginning. We come into this world all connected, and then life happens and other people happen. So
Yep.
I'm going to have to start to wrap the show up, unfortunately, because we make in about 4 minutes' time we're going to make way for the next show, which is The Vinyl Spinner Lives On with Tutor Johnny Kay. And so
I have one question you can answer within about 30 seconds.
Oh, go on then, Corey.
Okay, and this is from Max. You don't get a lot of guys asking, when will I find new employment?
That's interesting, Max. When am I going to find new employment?
When you believe in yourself.
Yeah. That's exactly right. You took the words out of my mouth. When you believe in yourself, oftentimes the employment, well, from a law of attraction perspective, everything happens when we let go of control. Sometimes we're controlling things so hard that we don't allow things to happen that we actually want to happen. So if we get out of the way and open, and I would need to know a little bit more from the practical perspective also what is actually happening with not attracting employment. It could be a really lousy resume. It could be, there are a bazillion reasons why employment may not have come your way yet. However, I do feel like Dr. Lesley that we have to get out of our own way, and it'll happen when we believe in ourselves completely.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you so much for being on our show. I've really enjoyed talking with you. And if the listeners want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
My website is www.intuitiveleadership.com, and you can contact me on Facebook, also at Terry Wildeman, TerryWildemann, or Intuitive Leader, which is our business page.
And any last quick comments that you'd like to offer our listeners?
Always trust your heart. Always trust your heart.
Well, thank you so much, Terry, and I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. But in the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.